Okay, again, thank you for joining us today in this conversation about what we can do to improve strategies for retention for underrepresented and minority students in the academy. I want to just kind of take a look here at this quote from Du Bois and what he's saying here. And I know many of you have seen this quote, but he said, now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some other more convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done, and not some future day or future year. It is today that we fit ourselves for the greater usefulness of tomorrow. Today is the seed time. Now are the hours that the work is to be done, not tomorrow. Tomorrow comes harvest and playtime. So you have joined us from HBCU institutions across the nation and other PWIs as well. So we want to share with you what the literature has shown us, has brought to us about advising African American students. So I want to look at two points here. About 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, the research says that 18 to 24, the traditional going to school, college age student group increased from 40 to 43%. And that more than 2 million African American students in both the community college and baccalaureate program in the US were beginning this journey on their college studies. 5 years later, this study said that 40% of African American students graduate. Maybe it sounds good, but when we look at the Caucasian students, 60% of those students graduated. So what can we do to narrow this gap? In another study, 2018, 2020, found similar findings as well among those 2.6 million students who enroll in college for the first time in the undergraduate program. 67% or 1.7 million students are retained. So we see that there is a continued loss of those students. What strategies can we implement to increase these numbers? So the literature shows several things. We focus on best practice and high impact practices, including helping students feeling connected that first semester. And that's very, very important because many of these African American students are enrolled for the first time, their first generation in their family. So this is new to them. Although they are young adults, this is a total new environment, and many of them do not have the support from parents who have graduated from college because they're first generations. Campus involvement, connectedness is very important. Culture awareness, using proactive and intrusive advising strategies as well. And then looking at predictive analytics for those marginal students, students who are not faring well in the academy. What practices can we implement? Early alerts to help those students navigate the college experience. At Albanian College in Michigan, there was a study in the academic success program, and that institution required these first semester students to take a 2-hour study session that focused on successes and failure. They were required to take, a 2-hour course that focused on understanding successes and failures as well. And they also had to attend 3 2-hour study sessions focused on learning and achievement. At Middle Tennessee State University, they have a student success group to identify and measure and track the key performance metrics for these students. That information is given to the leaders in each one of the areas so that the academic leaders know how their students fare. So right now, I would like for you to put in the chat one word that best describes retention, just one word. Oh. Any response? Engagement, very good. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. Satisfaction, collaboration, great responses. Thank you so much for sharing those studies there. So let's I'm sorry. Here are the top 10 HBCU institutions in terms of retention and graduation rates. I want you to think about your institution being part of that group in the next few years. So let's just see what those top 10 colleges and universities are doing at their institution to propel them to the top 10. We will find that there are several themes from these retention-focused institutions. At Spelman, they have a Center of Excellence for Minority Women. And that center focused on partnering with industry and government in the academy. At Tuskegee, their TRIO program uses a student support services. There they have targeted 375 first-generation undergraduate students from low-income families and those students with disabilities. So they have a little bit of a different focus. At Howard University, their focus is on the second year experience for students, whereas Winston-Salem has an Office of Academic Student Experience that focuses on the whole student. They look at their first year, their sophomore, and the transfer students in terms of academia and co-curricular activities. Are these students engaged? What is the social integration? Are they members of SGA, the band, a math club, or other organizations on campus that will allow them to identify and belong and persist in their academic studies? The retention focus at Morehouse is working with the students in the McNair Scholars Program, and it's a year-round program. There's an 8-week summer boot camp where students will focus on their doctoral studies and research. At Mississippi Valley, they have a learning resource entity, and that center is focused on early alerts for at-risk students and those students that are on probation. The first year experience, they're trying to help those students navigate that very first year by engagement. That was one of the words that you just shared with us in the chat, and also career exploration. So they're trying to support those students who may have academic challenges. At Claflin, they have a program called Lindsay, and Lindsay is Leaders Learning in Communities for Success. And again, they are focused on first generation students as they transition to the college experience. They also have an upswing program. That upswing program focuses on peer-to-peer tutoring for major general education courses. For example, if I'm math challenged or if I need to improve my writing skills, there is a peer tutor to provide that support for the first year student. At Virginia State, they're looking at assisting students in learning how to successfully navigate the campus. College campuses are daunting to many students. They may see them at a distance, they may have attended the game, but now you are part of that college and university. So there at Virginia State, those students are required to take a 2 credit hour seminar the first semester that helps them with critical thinking, time management skills, test taking skills, and teamwork. At the last strategy looks at the last two schools, FAMU, and FAMU focus is on that transfer student. As I was studying and preparing for this presentation, I found this very, very interesting that the transfer students also need to be coddled as well. So at FAMU, they have a whole transfer week of activities devoted to those students. They have a transfer mentor, ambassadors, and they have a transfer student association. There is Tau Sigma is the National Honor Society for National Transfer Week, and at FAMU, they have established the Eta Gamma chapter of Tau U focused on transfer students. And finally, at Hampton University, they're looking at the Office of Student Affairs is the focus for these students. Students are assigned an academic success advisor in each of the 7 schools. And they provide support registration. We look at midterm deficiencies, counseling. The focus is on undecided majors and those students that are on probation. So they're kind of looking at the areas where students are weak. Also, they too have workshops that are focused on active listening, how to take notes, how to manage your time, how to communicate with the professors. And they have a slogan or affirmation that say, if you can envision it, you can do it. So these are what the institutions, the top 10 institutions, are doing around the nation to retain students. Before we go into the critical strategies here, we would like for you to go into breakout rooms. And in the breakout rooms, just move this back. In the breakout rooms, wherever your group is, we like for you to spend just a very few minutes of developing a strategy, a retention strategy for students. And you will need a spokesperson to report out. So, Ms. Geneva, are we ready to go to our breakout rooms?
Yes, so I'm going to deploy the breakout rooms. There'll be about 3 or 4 people in each room, and we will have 5 minutes for this activity. So give me one moment. I will deploy. All right, you should be going in now.
Okay, so just to repeat again, what we're doing, we're trying to develop a retention strategy that we'll be able to implement. And then we're going to report out to the whole group what that strategy is.
I'm going to pause the recording for a couple of minutes.
All right. Thank you, colleagues, for those discussions. And now we'd like to hear what your ideas was about strategies for retention. And just in any order, your spokesperson, and tell us what your focus was and what your idea of a strategy.
I can start. I think we were, I know you said no particular order, but I'd like to just go ahead and get it out of the way. In our group, we started by discussing like the things that we do on our campuses. And our strategy was one, making sure that we survey the students to see what things we have already done well, what things may need to be improved, but also implementing industry tools like Upswing to help us reinforce retention with students.
Great idea. Great idea. Let us hear from another group. Thank you.
I can go next. So our group, one thing that we talked about was looking at kind of revamping the freshman experience. One thing that Claflin University does that has seemed to work is we have their first semester, freshman year, they have a 3-credit-hour course called UNIV 101 Freshman Experience. And that's to help them transition from high school to college. And then there's like a capstone experience of 1 credit the next semester to kind of finish that up. And I'm not sure, I haven't taught the course before, but if it's not already being implemented, we talked about doing some workshops as part of that experience. Workshops, as you see here on the PowerPoint, on like note-taking, time management, study skills, stuff like that. And that could be helpful for their freshman experience, especially since we've got a lot of first-generation students.
Awesome. Awesome. And the last group? Do we have a reporter from the third breakout room? Okay, well, let's move on. We're going to have another opportunity at developing our retention strategy a little bit later on in the presentation. So now we want to turn our attention to, if I can get my PowerPoint to move. Well, the critical strategies for increasing retention and graduation rates. Expect and reward teaching excellence. This is really huge. Now, so far, we've talked about the accountability from the student standpoint, but also for faculty and staff, we have to establish the bar, we have to raise the bar, and we have to bring excellence to the academy. We cannot expect our students to engage if we're not engaging. So it may be that if we need to attend conferences, workshop like you're in today, to look at strategies that will help us to be more effective in engaging students. The quality of service for students. We've invited these students to campus, and we owe these students an opportunity to provide for them the best quality services that we can give them in terms of tools for success. The writing lab, the reading lab, the math lab, those qualities of services that we bring to the students. And also, we have to make sure that their living conditions are muted as well. Focus and follow through. And so, when we implement a strategy, or when we give information to students, make sure that we are focused and follow through with that particular strategy. Embrace and change. This morning in my lecture, in my management information system, we were looking at e-businesses. And the chapter started something like this. You probably, I don't know if you even remember a Polaroid camera or not. Does anybody remember a Polaroid camera? Put it in the chat or raise your hands, but just think on that concept for a minute. And then we had like the 1 hour, mini stores that you could go and get your pictures developed. That's a long time ago. That's a long time ago. Thank you. Matt says he remember those days, but what happened to Polaroid? Well, one of our researchers in the business field is Porter, and Porter has 5 strategies that are important for businesses. And one of them is to look at what competitors are doing internally and externally. Well, along about the time that the phone became popular in everyday use, we can see kind of a fading of the use of the Polaroid instant camera. Particular when we're in the early 2000s, when we went from just the cell phone to a cell phone with a camera, there was no use for a Polaroid camera. But the people at Polaroid did not embrace change. They did not look at what their competitors were doing. We got to do that in the academy. Now, change for the sake of change is not really good. But when we look at bringing change to the academy, we have to first see, is it going to improve the things that we're already currently doing? And then that change has to be perinated. It has to be espoused by everyone in the academy. There should be a collaboration from top down, from the president all the way down to faculty, the administrators. We have to embrace that change and make sure that it is permeated with the students in the academy. Hold leaders accountable. The president is accountable to the board of directors. As you know, right now we've been in strikes, UAW, and the big 3 since the middle of September. And I think Ford made some concessions and maybe Stellantis, but General Motors is still holding out. But when the UAW went to strike, you know, they're communicating with the UAW. They are not going to a specific plant, but they're holding those the companies accountable for their leadership and for moving forward. And so the president is responsible for the growth in fundraising. They are responsible for making sure that we are meeting accreditation standards. They're making sure that our athletic teams are good. So they are the person that's held accountable, although they have delegated the responsibility to the vice presidents. And so it's kind of a trickle down effect of accountability. We must be accountable to academics as well in the academy. And then we got to raise the bar. Students, whether they're at HBCU retention, are competing internationally, not just in your city, at your college and university, but when they submit their applications for positions, they are competing globally. So we have to raise the bar. Our early leaders in higher education, the Du Boises, Mary McLeod, Bethune, Cookman, and all those Carver, all of those people raised the bar high. We have to raise the bar high, and we have to make sure that those students are being held accountable for their learning. High impact practices in the academy will also yield some things that we can work with the students on. So we've talked about the first year seminars. We talked about the second year seminars. We've talked about collaborative assignments, undergrad, all of those things. But the research says that of these 10 high impact practices, the ones that we really need to focus on are the 4 that are bolded here on this slide. High expectations for performance. And I just went over the high expectations. We must raise the bar in academics for those students in order for them to compete. Requiring a significant investment of time and effort means that we have to engage with those students. We have to have the advisor. We have to have the staff support. We have to have those students interacting with these and their peers as well, interacting with these students as they move through the academy. We have to have a substantive interaction from the faculty and the peers with the students in terms of not only preparing students for the registration schedule, but just having a conversation with the students about their careers and what are their interests, and currently what are they doing to promote and to enhance the things that they are learning through their courses. And then we want to make sure that there's relevance to academics and the things that we're teaching, the content of our courses, to the real world. Will they be able to take those contents and apply them in real world situations? And so we can experience that by making sure that these students will have internships and summer experiences where they can actually test the content of those classes. What about barriers of those first generation students? We've talked about some things that are unique, but first generation students are unique. They don't have the parent mentors there. They come from low income households. We say in higher education that the high schools did not adequately prepare them for the rigors of college, and high school push it down to the elementary and on and on. But the fact is, the student may not have engaged in the learning. So we want to look at a network of social and emotional support for those students. Many of those students have financial burdens as well. They work 20 hours or more a week. sometimes I call them Wonder Woman and Superman because they think that they can hold a full-time job and also be a full-time student. And it is very, very difficult. And when that happens, if I'm working full-time, I'm enrolling full-time, then my work is taken away from my studies. But also, I have these financial burdens that must be met. I got to pay for my cell phone bill. I got to pay for my car insurance. I got to pay my car note. All of these are barriers that first generation students will encounter. What can we do in the academy to help these students navigate these barriers? Well, first day of class, we have to create a warm and friendly environment for these students. Spell out what you expect for them. They've not been here before. They don't know the expectations of the students. They don't even know what a course syllabus is. So we have to like really cuddle and hold these students' hands and explain what the college norms are for the students. What it means to submit an assignment. Assignments are no longer handwritten. We have to type these papers on our computers. On the notice I said on the computers, not the cell phone. So all too often students think that their cell phone is everything because of access that it has. But we know in academia, it is very difficult for us to prepare assignment using our cell phone. So we have to encourage students to make sure that they're using the resource centers, the laboratories in the academy. Specify what should be done on a particular assignment. Review the rubrics and the expectation for the students. Have in-class study groups. I have not always been a supporter of in-class study groups. Once I form a team, I would expect that team to get together after class and to complete the assignment. But the reality is, as I just said on a previous slide, these students work. They come to class, they leave class, and they go to work to support those things that we just talked about. So why not create in-class groups? And with an in-class group, the instructor has an opportunity to visit with the students, see who's participating, and see where the barriers are, and see where the great ideas. So we can give at a boy, at a girl, we can give support to the ideas that they may have about a particular project. And then we have to share with these students about a growth mindset. We have to let them know that intelligence and ability is not born, that we have to study and learn and earn to be have great abilities. And then if we see a student struggling, find a way to discreetly talk to that student and just ask if there's anything that you can do for them. Because again, we don't want those students leaving the academy. Encourage them to join activities on campus. For example, in the business area, we have Phi Beta Lambda fraternity for business students, or the math club, or the science club, or SGA, or other campus clubs that you may have. And then outside the academy, we have like a local Toastmasters International. This encourages students to build leadership skills and confidence in public speaking. So these are some things that students can engage in and assist them with the barriers that they may have. The peer involvement model is a model that is implemented at Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas. It is created with this concept that the university has a menu with 3 main courses: the appetizers, the entree, and the desserts. Here, we're working with students one-on-one. Now, just a couple of weeks ago, we had registration blitz, and often in registration blitz, you won't find that shy student, that introverted students going there. But with the peer involvement model, where we're working with the students on one-on-one, often you will find that student becoming a part of that organization. And so an appetizer for the involvement advising model might include something like a weekend service project. For example, you could have a campus cleanup or a camping trip. The entrees would include an internship in their discipline, or maybe a SGA position, or an innovation think tank for a group. And then for dessert, it could be things that are related to their careers, but outside the academy. For example, they could have a certification group in their certification certificate program that they could aspire for, like an IT cloud certification. We had a student a few years ago was interested in flying, and that student earned their pilot license. I had a couple of students I spoke with a couple of days ago that are interested in real estate, and so they're going to work on their real estate license. So these are some things that we can do in the involvement model. This program at Stephen F. Austin State University, in 1 year, the results were that these low stakes, here's that 91% of those students felt more connected. 82% aspired for leadership opportunities, and 92% were aware of extra co-curricular activities on campus. And almost 88% of those students were able to balance academics and social experiences. Those students that participated in the program, the fall to spring retention rate was 95%, 6 points higher than the institution-wide. The second year with this program, the involvement and advising model joined the first year experience, and that number is, I think that number was something like 97% retention from fall to spring. So there is great growth and improvement in retention for using the involvement model. Also, if I can go forward here, for the peers that work with the university menu model, the benefits were, of course, they were compensated. And at this institution, they had a traditions council officers organization, and students from that traditions council office volunteered to work with the university involvement model. Peer leaders had new appreciation for diversity. They improved their leadership experience. They had opportunities for additional training. They were able to connect the learning with personal development. The student organizations now use student learning outcomes as they develop their different programs. Peers improved their coaching skills, and they understood better intentional learning experiences. These last two opportunities I want to talk about are programs that move from the high school to colleges, enhancing that experience. Text message and advising is one of them, and it includes summer nudging. Well, what is summer nudging all about? Well, reminders, texting, as we know, the Gen Xers are a huge use of text messaging. And so text messages were sent to the students and the parents. And those text messages were aligned with key college related deadlines. Accept housing acceptance, activating passwords, health immunization information, and other information that's needed by the institution. So again, they were aligned with the deadline for each one of those. Students had to respond in a text message to the counselor. There also was a peer mentor intervention where the peer mentor worked with the prospective college students to support outreach to that student that was transitioning from college to high school, even if it was just a conversation of what is it like in college. And so they encourage those students to persist and to complete the things they needed to enroll in college. The finding from these programs is that those messages certainly prompted the students to complete those colleges related tests, and students responded better to the peer mentors outreach. And so that program has been very successful in moving the student forward. Another related text message is texting helps the summer melt. What summer melt says that a student in June in graduation from high school, they have good intentions of going to college, but other things they have experienced other barriers also. They didn't realize that they needed to submit test scores. They don't know how to submit test scores. They missed a housing deadline because they missed an email. They don't have the counselor to support them. They don't have social capital, that they just don't have the resources to do those things that they need to do to prepare to enter college in the fall. And so this survey found that 30% of first generation students can't complete the FAFSA forms effectively. Just yesterday on Good Morning America, it talked about the complications of the FAFSA form, and FAFSA has now had an overhaul, so it's going to be streamlined and easier to navigate for students completing the FAFSA forms. Students are also concerned about books and housing and activity fees. All of these things are barriers to summer melt. So the text messages are means to nudge the students about these types of deadlines. And so they are also concerned about logistical challenges in terms of transportation. I just got this new job, and this job conflicts with my schedule. So how am I going to navigate, get into work and also attending class? Will I be able to fit in with my new circle of colleagues there? You know, I had my whole old high school buddies, but they're no longer going to college, or they're not going to this college. I miss orientation. Will I still be able to attend the colleges? So these are concerns that the summer help will aid us in helping the students to navigate entering college. The last program I want to share with you is the bottom line model. The bottom line model is a program, again, that's working with high school seniors, preparing them for the rigors of college. That bottom line program is part of a program that's used in Boston, Worcester, Massachusetts, New York City, New York, and the Chicago areas. And that program has a list of targeted colleges that will help students navigate the college experience. They'll assist with financial aid packages. Students will apply to multiple colleges, and the bottom line will encourage them to apply to those schools that they can really be successful in, and those colleges that provide scholarships and grants for the students. The study worked with 3,000 minority applicants from low-income families, and the low-income families was determined by those students in high school that received subsidized lunches. Of those students in the program, 61% will enroll in four-year colleges and university after high school graduation, and 13% will go to the community college. To participate, students had to have a 2.5 GPA.
Dr. Theus, so we're getting close to the top of the hour, so I just want to be mindful of folks' time.
Okay, let me just do the findings here for this study. This study found that those students who participated in the bottom line model, 41% of those students were more likely to enroll and complete colleges. Also, of the control and the treatment group, most of them were from families that are not native English speaking groups. And again, they selected those colleges where the tuition was lesser, reducing the financial burden on students. And finally, the study showed that enrollment did increase, and these students persisted the first 2 years of college. The one last thing, we got one last poll. If you will launch that poll for us, Geneva,
Yep.
We want you to respond to this poll for us. Okay.
The poll question is, do you believe the retention strategies at your institution are effective? Yes,
Okay.
no, or somewhat?
All right. So are these the results that I'm looking at?
Yes, so you are seeing them in real time, yes.
Awesome. Awesome. So it looks like that. Thank you for the poll response there. It looks like that we have some work to do. And we know that by the these statistics that we have looked at in the studies there. 3 things I'd like to leave you with. Instead of asking why don't they, think why can't we? And just remember that retention is a collaborative effort. It's an effort for everyone in the academy. Give grace when you notice that a student needs help. And finally, please create one sustainable retention strategy that you can share with members of your institution. I want to thank you for being part of this sharing about strategies. Geneva, back to you.
No, so if you want to keep scrolling, that's fine. So we could just close out on your day.
Q&As.
Yes. So folks,
Any questions, anything, you can come off of mute if you have any questions or comments. Okay, we certainly thank you for participating. If you will go to this evaluation link here and complete the evaluation form, we are very grateful for any feedback that you may provide for us.
Yes. Yeah, so thank you for that plug, Dr. Theus. And as I mentioned earlier, so we will be continuing the conversation on LinkedIn. So if you go and try to navigate and find us on LinkedIn, you can just look up UNCF Teaching and Learning Center, and you'll be able to discover our page there. And we will be posting the recording later this week, and then we'll also be, you know, engaging in communication and conversation in the comments. So please do join in, and I'd love to hear your feedback and how you are experiencing retention strategies on your campus. It's obviously a lot of you said somewhat effective strategies, so I'd love to hear what you think your effective strategies are, or where there are areas for improvement at your home institution. So thank you so much, Dr. Theus, and thank you all for tuning in and for your time today. I really appreciate it. So with that, we are closing out for the day, and I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you, colleagues.